Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my dear fellow learners, ladies, gentlemen, professionals. May peace be upon all of you. This video is something related to career and career development, how you approach your career. So one of the things that I usually engage with is supporting mostly my students with their interviews. We look at CVs, we look at kind of prep work related to interviews that they face, etc., etc. Now, having done this for several years, I realized that there is a certain set of basic rules that apply to all interviews that I probably want to share with all of you, which would help you. This video is 6 mistakes that you must avoid. You must take great care to avoid when you are facing interviews in your career. Number one is not applying right. So one of the first stages of applying to interviews is the application process itself. Nowadays, a lot of companies have their own HR portals, some different web-based platforms that allow you to, input all your data, create your profile, and apply for various positions. Now, when it comes to these kind of questions, one of the tactics that a lot of corporations use is try and ensure that they are able to shortlist the best candidates in the application process itself. So if you do a lazy job during your application process, if you don't really pay attention and create a profile, create your CV, at times even edit your CV to cater to that particular requirement, that particular vacancy, because you might have your CV geared to a certain set of or certain industry, certain set of positions, but you need to really gear your CV and edit your CV for every position. You need to really take a look at it. This takes discipline and it takes hard work, but you must do it. And at times, you also need to take great care about your cover letter, because one of the things that I notice is that a lot of the cover letters and the CVs I get that I forward to my colleagues and friends is that it's a copy and paste. But you cannot do this. You, especially with the cover, whenever you get a chance, whenever they specifically ask you to write a cover, you need to be able to write something that is very genuine, very original to that particular vacancy. And you should read your vacancy advertisement, your job specifications, and understand what they want, and then pitch to them in your cover how exactly you can cater to that. That is very, very important. So the application process itself is a very critical part. Make sure that you get that right. That might make all the difference between you getting the interview and not. The second one is not attending. Now, especially with during COVID-19, last couple of years, things have been very hectic and the job market has been down. So whenever you get an interview, you go. But still, I've met individuals, I've met people who have interviews, who have multiple interviews, and they don't attend, right? For some reason, they would have applied it for the sake of applying. They were in a, they applied for that position while they were in some sort of application. You know, you're applying. Every vacancy you see, you apply, and then you get a call. When you get a call, you must attend to it. This is something that I personally definitely believe in, because they allocate, these corporations, these entities, they allocate significant amount of time. Even if it's 5 minutes, that's a lot of employee time that gets allocated toward you to making the phone call. If you promise that you would attend, and if you actually make the commitment by applying to that vacancy, you must go. There are other benefits, significant other benefits to this. You might even get flagged if you don't go, and future applications within the same company might get rejected. So if you get a call for an interview, you must make sure that you definitely attend. The third one is not preparing. And one of the things with respect to preparing is, when I used to do a lot of interviews back in the day when I was part of the corporate sector. And one of the things I noticed was, when we ask generic questions, common questions, candidates, participants, attendees, interviewees do not have the answers ready. Like, for example, if you ask, what are your weaknesses? What do you think your weaknesses are? What do you think your strengths are? These are general questions. And when you ask them, you really put the candidates in a tough position. There are always basic and obvious questions that are going to come at you, whatever position you're looking at, whatever position you're interviewing for which you must be ready. You have to prepare. In addition to that, you must research as much as possible. I know, for example, the extent to which I go is I try to actually research the company. I try to actually research the person who is going to even interview me, so that I'm able to get a get a look and feel of how this interview might go. And depending on the person who is going to attend the interview, I've actually made calls to the company and I've asked them, can you tell me who is going to interview? I've called the HR coordinator. I've asked them who will be interviewing me, what is that person's position, what is that person's name. I'd like to get to know, I'd like to prepare, and I'd like to research. And they actually tell you, and you can do a lot of research on LinkedIn, even on Facebook, on social media, to try and gauge that personality and cater your pitch to that particular situation or circumstance that you're going to face. So not preparing for the basic questions, not preparing in terms of research is very, very looked down upon. So make sure that you prepare for your interview. The fourth one is not developing a sound professional relationship with the panel. Now, this is very important because the simple example I can tell you is many a times there have been situations where students who have gone to interviews have called me and asked me what to do. I went to the interview. Now what do I do? And one of the first things I ask them is, do you know the person who interviewed you? Did you get the names? How many people interviewed you? 2. What are their names? And they don't know. This is a significant problem. You have to remember, you have to build a sound professional relationship. You never know when there would come a day in the future, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years later, you might meet this person. The world is a small place. And this particular interview, if you make a first impression, if you built a good professional relationship, you created a lasting impression with this person, it might stick and this person might remember. That can be very, very important. You have to build a sound relationship with the HR coordinators, with those of them who do the coordination and communicate with you with respect to the company. You must try to build as much as possible a sound relationship with the panel who is going to interview you. And part of that is leaving a good, positive, lasting impression, even if they don't offer you the job. The fifth one, very, very important, is not asking questions. So most of the interview experiences I've held is where I ask questions, especially if I'm the interviewer. I ask questions and you get a basic set of answers. And then I ask them, do you have anything to ask? Do you have any questions? And this is normal. And most of the candidates, 80% of the time, sometimes 90% of the time, nobody has questions. And so they're like, so far, no, nothing. That is not possible. You have to create questions. You have to come up with questions. You have to show your inquisitive nature, your curiosity. And the research earlier, if you have prepared, it will help. So if you can prepare a set of questions, right? Because any company there, you will have questions about the company, the division, the way they work, the kind of culture that you have. So when you're asking these questions, it means that you're interested in that position. It gives the impression that you really want to join. And these questions can actually spark and pave the way into further interesting questions, more interesting conversations and discussions. And I've been in plenty of situations where I've actually built a friendship with these people, with the interviewers, who actually communicate in a very honest, straightforward nature. That can be very positive. So make sure that you ask plenty of questions, as much as you're given the opportunity for, to ensure that you show that you're interested and to learn as much as possible about the vacancy, about the company firsthand, not just by reading the vacancy advertisement. And finally, not following up. So when you're serious about a position and when you interview, you must have the courtesy. It is actually a courteous thing to do, to follow up and to see if at all, because a lot of companies don't inform, and sometimes they might tell you that if we are interested and if you're going to hire you, we will call you back. But still, you might be able to, if you try, you might be able to even get a feedback, a constructive feedback, to see why you didn't get the opportunity. So making one phone call, sending one email, it doesn't take any effort. It doesn't, you're not losing a piece of your body. So make sure that you send that email, you send that final follow-up email requesting, at least, at the very least, that you understand that you were not able to secure the position, but what could I have done? And someone somewhere might give you something very valuable piece of advice. So everyone who has done this, everyone who has the habit of doing this, also gauge the additional benefit of leaving an impression, leaving a final impression with them, that you're someone who likes to close the deal in a very organized manner, and that can also work very positively. And these are the 6 mistakes, or rather 6 areas of concern that you must have when it comes to going or attending and applying for an interview. That is what I wanted to leave you with, because when I really looked at all the people I work with respect to prepping for interviews and talking about career placements, these are the areas that are very common. These are the few things, the few little gaps that, if addressed, a lot of people who are high potential will actually be visible and will get hired. So I hope you take all these 6 hints, all these 6 advices, guidances very constructively. All the very best for your next interview. May peace be upon all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.